Wonderful Tuesday, everyone. Fabio, I think the Cake DeFi account is unmuted. Can you mute that one? Yeah, now it's okay. Yeah, sometimes Twitter Spaces is buggy. But now it's fine. Great. While I'm waiting to get everyone in, I am gonna be looking to kind of intro the entire thing, what's happening here on a regular basis. I'm waiting also for Fabio to come in as the co-host. Yes, there he is. Generally, we do this on a weekly basis, always on Tuesday, 6:30 Singapore time. So that's like that's Tuesday lunch Europe, morning America time. We discuss current markets. We discuss what's happening on Cake. We discuss questions that you have. And obviously, a lot of stuff happened over the past week. It was one of the busiest weeks ever here at the company. And insanely busy times, insanely busy. We actually had the strongest week when it comes to fund inflows over the past couple of days, both measured in Bitcoin, both measured in US dollars. We've had the strongest week in growth in absolute terms. So it's been absolutely bombastic. I want to thank each and every one of you. It's such a statement the way you support the company and to show how much you value the service that we provide. So I really want to say thanks there. On the other hand, obviously, I also want to say, look, we are not perfect. I know every day we probably make mistakes. We have bugs that we try to fix, and especially when we have these massive launches. On the one hand, I discussed this yesterday on the DeFi chain Twitter space. There were issues on DeFi chain side. We had issues on Cake independently. Some were database related in a sense where the entire merger was relatively complicated to integrate those decentralized assets onto Cake DeFi. And obviously launching that and making sure everything is working for our customers. This took quite some effort. I'm going to address a couple of those. I want to take away some of your worries, especially some of you in the display on Cake DeFi. You think that some of you have lost 20% of your funds when it's actually not the case. And I'm going to address that. It has to do actually with the DUSD price. So that is, I think, a major one to kind of explain and what we're going to do about that. And yeah, obviously a lot of stuff to discuss when it comes to price action over the past week. Crypto markets really crashed almost by 20%, pretty much within 2 days. Yeah, and so obviously want to address that a bit and see what's possible for the rest of the year. Christmas is out about 2.5 weeks, so not too far. And yeah, Bitcoin price is just fighting for the $50,000. So yeah, it's still 100% gain away from the good old $100,000 that people had been expecting. And so we're going to address this and many other things. But yeah, let's kind of start off, Fabio. I would love to turn it around a bit today and start off maybe with the launch that we had on Cake DeFi over the past couple of days. Talk a bit about the success stories, talk a bit about the hiccups, things that we can improve, things that we are improving that the customer should be seeing. Let's start with that. And then let's talk a bit about the market conditions, talk a bit about price, what could be happening. Let's first kind of address a bit what's been the community asking, what have been the community's kind of sorrows, yeah, over the past couple of days.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Yeah, let's start with the launch first. So we implemented the decentralized assets on the DeFi chain side. And initially, a week back and 2 weeks back, we talked about only implementing pools that have more than 1 million liquidity in them. Maybe some of you know right now why. Because if you have an unbalanced pool or an illiquid pool, there are some risks involved, especially if you don't read and don't look before you make the swap. And these pools, they need time to get filled. And I guess with all of these big launches, a lot of people, they don't know, like we move so fast with implementing things and go from one feature to the next feature. And of course, like every big launch, always they have some minor hiccups. In my personal opinion, it was fine. Like it took a few hours for the rewards to completely come in, and of course lots of questions. When is a good time to go into a pool? When not? And as you mentioned, we had like, just to put numbers on that. Only like in my part of the job, I managed these big Telegram community groups, and we had our interactions are like 1,000% increased when you compare them to just 2 weeks ago. So in some of our groups, we average around 3,000 to 3,500 messages within 24 hours. This is completely crazy. But for me personally, the launch was good. It was super hectic and an enormous amount of questions, but big shout out to our moderators here. They tried our best. Also, big shout out to our customer support. They also have all-time high numbers in tickets that are coming in and users having questions, and pools are getting filled a lot faster than anybody would anticipate. So in my opinion, the launch was a big success, and of course it always takes some time. Like I think this afternoon, I think on Cake side we will have the first real reward cycle, and yeah, so things are getting exciting right now.
Yeah, and maybe to summarize what went live, you have now 2 new options on Cake DeFi. The first one, you cannot directly invest into securities. So you are not going to be able to invest into Tesla, for example. But there's something called a decentralized asset, and that's dTSLA. And dTSLA is somewhat linked to Tesla because when it is created on the blockchain, it's actually created via a reference price. And that's how dTSLA is then created. When it's trading, it has a free floating price, and that's basically the trading price. But there's some linkage. And these decentralized assets, you can buy on Cake DeFi. At the moment, we have 4 listed, and we're going to list more and more over the next couple of days. The first one that we listed is DUSD, and I'm going to address that a bit. That's basically a stable coin. Then the other one was dTSLA that you can invest in. The other one is dGameStop, and the other one is S&P 500. So these are the first options that you have. So you can invest in those, and you can speculate on the price, similar how you would be speculating on any other cryptocurrency. And the second thing you can do is just like on pretty much all the other assets, you can get cash flow from those. How does that work? You can submit those into liquidity mining. You, for example, submit S&P 500 and DUSD, and you submit those into liquidity mining, and then you are getting at the moment about 400% per year in returns on top of that. So why are you getting this? You're getting this because you're submitting liquidity for this exchange pair. So other people, and I always get the question, what is my main risk there? Well, the main risk is something called impermanent loss. Impermanent loss means that people trade so much from one side to another that you end up with a very imbalanced pool. So you end up with a lot from one thing and very little on the other thing, and there was a loss in between. So the reason it's impermanent, because in theory, right, if given enough time and enough volatility, those pool could kind of fluctuate the other way again. And then this impermanent loss, basically you end up with the original ratio when you came in. That's when you kind of end. And the counter to that is that you're getting these rewards. So the 400% per year should equalize the impermanent loss. And I think with 400%, it definitely does that, especially when the returns go a bit lower. So you can, if you go on our website, cakedefi.com/liquidity-mining, you see that. You can see, for example, if you put Doge into liquidity mining, you only get 27% per year. So there, the impermanent loss can be relevant. That's just very important to kind of explain here. Yeah, and that service, so basically you have 2 options. You can either invest into those D tokens and speculate on the price, or you submit them into liquidity mining and then gain from supplying liquidity. And that's a very, very exciting new way, because it allows you to get totally different price exposures on Cake DeFi. And there was also a question, what new services can you expect? Well, on the one hand, obviously, we want to expand the decentralized assets that we offer. And at the same time, we would love to kind of bundle them together, offer them in various packages, offer them almost in like a fund structure without them actually being funds. So that could be very, very interesting as a service. And then obviously the other thing, we really want to go wider, add more coins, add more blockchain ecosystems. So now that we've been really kind of going into all those various areas, that's going to be the next big thing. And that is really one thing I want to address. DUSD is classified as a stable coin on Cake DeFi, and all stable coins, and that's just how it's programmed in the platform, are set at $1. And all the other stable coins that we have, for example, USDC and USDT, they actually normally trade around $1. So this is actually correct. But DUSD at the moment, because it's such a new stable coin, and if you actually look back at all the other stable coins, when they originally started, they generally start at a price that's higher than $1. But then they trend to their actual value because they get arbitraged out. And so DUSD pretty much started, it started last week, but to be realistic, it really started yesterday. So it's going to take probably a couple of weeks until it gets arbitraged out. And it's actually being traded at a single dollar. But in our interface, it's a stable coin, so it's actually priced at $1. So when you look at decentralized assets and you look at the token price, you see that it's trading at $1, which is actually not correct. It's probably trading, I think, at $1.40 or $1.35. And so the reason I'm mentioning this is when people enter liquidity mining with DUSD, for example, they always have a bit of a heart attack because when they look at how much money they now own, they own about 18 to 19% less. But it's not actually that they're owning this. It's just that our system prices DUSD at $1 when the actual price is probably $1.38 or something. And so in liquidity mining, since DUSD is one half of the pair, it's not 38%, it's about 19%. And so that's where a lot of customers, they kind of bit shocked. They're like, oh, where did my 20% go? It's actually, if you would get out of liquidity mining again, that's when your 20% would actually be back. It's just a display error. So it's not an actual loss in funds. That's being fixed by our team. We didn't anticipate that because for us, DUSD was classified as a stable coin. So it was marked at $1. So this has to get fixed. The team is on fixing that. So you should see the correct asset value that you have. The other question I always get is when people say, but isn't that super risky that if I own DUSD now and the price is going down, should I then actually own DUSD? Well, if you have DUSD in liquidity mining, what then basically happens is that since the price is going down, its price is going down, but because it's in this pair, you're going to end up automatically with more DUSD because other people would arbitrage that out. So in my opinion, it's a bit tricky to own DUSD by itself because the price of it is going down. But if you have it in liquidity mining, you should have absolutely no issue because the other side would counterbalance that. And I would assume that most of you don't really just own DUSD and then just store it. You would normally put it into liquidity mining and then you're all good. So for example, if you put DUSD into liquidity mining, then with DFI at the moment, you get 270% per year, which is a really nice return. And so, yeah, just kind of keep that as a possibility in there. So at this very moment, until it's really arbitraged out, I agree. I wouldn't just buy DUSD and just store that. But put it into liquidity mining, then it shouldn't be an issue because then it's going to get arbitraged in the pool by others. And so it's not you losing money. It's actually those who are arbitraging it who are gaining additionally from minting it in the vault. They have to do this on the on-chain natively for that. So yeah, so that was obviously a really exciting, cool launch. Obviously, we're adding more and more of those decentralized assets. You can just track that if you go to your balance page, either on the app or on the website. And then, yeah, you can buy these decentralized assets, hold them, just invest in them, or you can also add them to liquidity mining and then gain from the activity that's happening with those rewards. Yeah, so that's just a bit of a rundown, quick explainer. Fabio, are there other questions that people have around this before we go a bit deeper? But I just wanted to address that a bit.
Yeah, the main questions are, of course, when will new pools be added? We talked briefly about that, or very elaborate actually in our last Twitter Spaces. So this is when pools reach 1 million in total liquidity measured in USD. And we are continuously adding pools. I think there were 2 or 3 pools added just today. And we, of course, we are looking at other pools and will implement them slowly over time. And you will see them appear on your Cake balances. And then the one other question, of course, is when do I get rewards? And this is maybe just right before you add it. So you press on add liquidity and you add a liquidity. There, it's written there that the first reward payment takes 12 to 24 hours. And this is very important to keep in mind. Don't get nervous or worried. This is just how it works at Cake. So the first rewards, most of the time, they take somewhere between 12 and 24 hours after you add your initial liquidity that payout. I think this question was asked a lot. And yeah, the other one you are already addressed. So people are asking about the USD a lot because this was the first pool, the most liquidity is in there, and there you had this price difference. Yeah, I think these are the 3 big ones.
Yeah. So if you have DUSD in liquidity mining, there will be a repricing. Actually, you should suddenly see about 30 to 40% more in price because that's the actual dollar value of that coin. It takes a little bit on our adjustment in the system because even though it's a stable coin, we can't price it at $1. It actually has to have the DEX floating price until it's then arbitraged out. That should happen actually within the next couple of weeks. And then this is absolutely easy. There was another question that I actually saw a lot in this case. Phil Flip asked this on Twitter as well. Are there going to be referral rewards for these liquidity mining for decentralized assets? So if you refer people and people just buy these decentralized assets, but they're not getting cash flow, then we at Cake DeFi are actually also not making any money because we only actually charge on the cash flow. We do have a small commission on the exchange for as a service fee, but that's just so negligible. There's no affiliate commission on that, and it's actually a very small amount, and as it's not really the business model that we have. But if they put it into liquidity mining, then obviously the customers make money. Then we charge 15% on that fee. And then obviously we also pay the referral fee on our 15%. So obviously you would also be getting a referral commission on that. Then a question that I see every once in a while, in this case, Stock Officer asked this on Twitter. Where does the money actually come from? I mean, someone has to pay for that. And that is a very important question. Cake is not creating any service itself. Cake is purely providing a service that's natively on the blockchain. And so this money comes from the blockchain rewards. The blockchain creates that. And Cake just forwards that. So Cake is completely transparent about this. You see all the transactions. You can trace and track it all yourself. And if you want to, you don't have to use Cake, right? If you know how to do all those things. And I just want to be very clear here. Many times, and I just saw a really crazy case again, where actually about half a year ago, I think, someone told me and said, hey, look, can Cake reduce my fees? I want to do all these things myself. And then I said, look, we can't reduce those fees. That's just the fees that we have. Otherwise, it just doesn't make any sense. But look, if you think you can do this better yourself, please just go out, control the private key yourself, and just deal with this. And then, hey, this person came to me a couple of days ago and said, hey, I lost my private key. Is there any way how you can help me? And I'm like, dude, sorry, like there's nothing about this. And he's like, yeah, don't you have backup of those private keys? And I'm like, I think you really don't understand how these private keys work. Like if there would be backup, so if someone could get these private keys for you, the blockchain would be broken, right? So no matter if this is on Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other blockchain, you just have to really know what you're doing. And I get it, like not your keys, not your coins, but also just statistically speaking, there has been more money lost from people actually losing their keys and or not having access to their keys anymore than these centralized platforms, especially because these centralized platforms get more and more secure. They're getting larger and better. And yes, they're always in the news when there's an issue, but at the end, like someone losing quite a significant amount of money is not in the news because it's just a small thing. So just kind of keep that in mind. Yes, when it comes to that, you can use all these yourself. You just have to really know what you're doing. I think that's quite important. Yeah. Sorry, Fabio. Yeah, I wanted to pass it on to you.
Yeah, maybe one question that comes up as well is on the future timeline, because some of our competitors and also on the DeFi chain side, it is possible to take loans, like where you have a 0.5 up to 5% APR, and you can take a loan. And is this something that is coming to Cake, and if so, when?
Yeah, that's gonna be a future service to look into. So obviously on what we have on the roadmap is a plan for our customers not having to sell any of their coins, but if they don't want to, but in theory getting a loan on their coins and then taking that loan and as a stable coin, for example, USDC, and then they can actually go and spend that. So yeah, and there we would actually even be looking to work to partner with like off ramps where there's even easier ways to actually then spend this. I mean, this is something we've discussed several times, especially wealthy people when it comes to stocks. They always do that. That was the flag that Elon Musk also got about 3 months ago for not having to pay taxes, and now he's selling a lot of his stock because he has to pay taxes. But basically, what a lot of these people do is they just take a loan against their stock. They don't really sell that, so they still participate from the gains in the crypto while they can still use their assets to actually be spent. Now, I also saw a couple of questions on if a frozen DFI would be available for that. Cake, again, is not creating that service. So if any service is available on a blockchain, then we can look into integrating that. I also want to be clear, Cake will not integrate every single service from a blockchain, be it DeFi chain or be it from Ethereum or be it from Bitcoin or whatever blockchain it is. We're going to integrate those services where we think they make sense from the target audience that we have, the target market we have. And you will see actually, especially next year, there will be a very, very clear differentiation, for example, between DeFi chain and Cake. Many people always think, oh, Cake and DeFi chain is the same thing. It's actually not. It's completely different teams, completely different decisions, completely different vision and roadmap and ideas, right? For Cake, it's really about next year to add more and more blockchains, be completely blockchain agnostic, be this one-stop platform, add algo decision making to it so that people have very easy way to decide which asset should I go into, which cryptocurrency should I go into, which, for example, D token should I go into, right? And have very easy decision making on this. On DeFi chain's roadmap, if you look at the pink paper and you look at the white paper, it's all about adding options next year, adding futures next year, going for Ethereum virtual machine in a second layer, looking into what kind of metaverse / Web3 services should be added there. So you will see there will be a very drastic kind of fork in the road, if you want to call it, from all the services that will be on DeFi chain. And then Cake always goes and says, you know what, that is like really fitting into the customer base that we have. Let's pick that one. We're going to add that one. The other 16, we are not going to be adding. Also, we may not add all the ticket pairs that the community will decide on. Some have maybe regulatory reasons. Others may have liquidity reasons. Others just have more tech reasons. Others have profitability reasons, right? Again, and we're going to be looking into many other blockchain ecosystems. If you look at the size on Cake DeFi with all the other blockchains on CoinMarketCap, there's many blockchains, right, that we would love to integrate next year. And so that's definitely going to be a main focus point here. So yeah, one thing that for some funny reason, the question I always get is, what's going to be our marketing strategy on Cake DeFi? And there I really want to tell you that we are a privately traded company, and it shouldn't be much of your worries or your interest how we are doing our marketing. While I appreciate your concern on that, it's not something I'm going to be sharing here, because at the end that's also a bit of an insider kind of strategy. Yeah, we at the moment we're launching a very new kind of strategy that I haven't seen any other crypto company doing out there. And I'm not going to go here and share that simply because I want to test this and see how this goes. And we want to take it from there. So I appreciate the concern totally. One thing I can totally kind of mention, our main focus, especially for Cake DeFi, is going to be like on the marketing side, right? It's going to be the English speaking countries. That doesn't mean that we're going to stop, I don't know, marketing in German speaking countries or Italian or Spanish or French, but we're just really going to focus a lot on English. That's why we're doing the Twitter space here in English. A lot of people ask if I can do it in my native tongue, German. No, we do it in English. And then maybe other people, influencers, affiliates, they're going to go and say, you know what, we're going to translate that or we're going to post it in German. So yeah, but when it comes to the exact marketing strategy, I 100% appreciate that concern. And look, if ever in the event that we ever are a publicly traded company and we have a quarterly investor call and someone asks that question, it's a totally different scenario and situation. But look, at the moment, it's pretty much u-zyn and myself who own each 50% of the company aside of the employee stock options. So it's most of the concern of u-zyn and myself. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Fabio, any other points we need to address on Cake, the launch? Because otherwise, obviously, we have, I think, a lot to discuss when it comes to price.
Yeah, maybe just to sum it up for everybody that was not listening the last week or the week before, all of this gets uploaded to YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify Podcast within the next few days, or maybe even later today. And we right now our complete focus is on rolling out these new liquidity pools, and then in end of the year or beginning of next year, we do a little bit of cleanup work, all these small features that you were requesting, that you are asking us to do on Telegram, and that we always say it's coming soon, it's coming soon. It will come eventually. Yeah, we take some dedicated time for that. But yeah, as you mentioned, probably the best thing to go into general markets, price actions, because there was a lot happening in the last 7 days.
For sure, man. Why don't you start? You're always the one with the crystal ball. I wanna mention your crystal ball seems a bit broken. I think it can only sing the bullish tune, and that was not the tune that's been the right tune, especially for Bitcoin and Ethereum. I mean, DeFi chain has been hitting all-time high. Obviously, that's been great for a lot of our customers, but obviously, also a lot of our customers only invest in Bitcoin. And then yeah, they when I post I don't know, like we see an all-time high on the platform, then obviously I get a lot of messages from Bitcoin holders and Ethereum holders who are like, yeah, nice to highlight that, but we lost 10% over the last week. So I get that. But look, I think the best thing many times actually to diversify. And I think a lot of people with the diversified portfolio haven't gotten hit that bad as some who are like really focused in a single coin. Yeah, let's discuss this a bit. What happened? Why do you think happened? What happened? Where are we going from here? What do you hear out there?
Yeah.
What are other influencers kind of saying? What's the market saying? Let's discuss that a bit.
Sure. You briefly touched on that actually last week, and you said there is a small chance of liquidity events that we see, like a sell-off, and the chance of a sell-off, it's always out there. I guess we had that, and if you compare it, like you can take some metrics like the stock RSI, and on an hourly, we went down to a stock RSI of 8. The last time we had that was in March 2020. And everybody, of course, remembers March 2020. It was a very unexpected cascade of liquidations. It just like some kind of spiral that really, I don't know, took us down, I think 30% from the all-time highs. Funny thing, maybe we topped out at 69 and bottomed out at 42. So maybe Elon Musk had something to do with this.
I didn't pay attention to that, but now that you mention it, that's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the market was actually.
What's actually up with those two numbers? So 69 because of the sex position, I assume, right? And then what's up with this 42 stuff?
420 is, I think, the international day for everybody that smokes weed, or it's
what,
also
the
some
20th?
kind of
The 20th. I
20th
mean,
of April.
I live in Singapore, so like drugs are like as an absolute no-go as possible. So yeah, forgive my ignorance here. So 20th of April, or what is like National Marijuana Day or what?
Yeah, something like that, and it became a big meme thing. And also, Elon Musk really likes these numbers. He's
Mm.
also like his birthday is 69 days after 420, and like yeah, and there's so
Oh
many. I
man.
don't know. It became a whole thing. But like if you look at the drop we had on a technical perspective, it's we touched on the 50. Moving average on a weekly scale, and what kind of shifted from the bull run we had in 17 to the bull run we had right now in 2021 is instead of using the weekly 21 EMA as a support band for the bull market, we actually do that right now with the 50. And we touched on that quite a few times, and there's a few bigger influencers. One I personally like and bring up a lot is Benjamin Cohen, and he always says we need to hold the line, and the line is the 50 moving average. It was at 47, and we were holding lines. We were closing above 47. We are recovering now, and in my personal opinion, if we can hold it for until Sunday or even go higher, this is actually very bullish. Every time we hold the line, we had a bullish price action right afterwards. And yeah, I'm I'm always bullish, even during the drop, even during the drop. And so I'm not worried. I still see us going higher from here. The bull market is not over. I'm fairly certain about that. What you also can see is influencers making polls, like Tech Dev, Benjamin Cohen, The Moon, and a few others. They make polls and they ask the community, when do you think the top will be? And in almost all of these polls, Q1 2022 was the clear winner. In my personal opinion, it could be even later than that, but of course, we don't know. Yeah, what would you say was the reason for the sell off, or how where do we go from here?
Um, yeah, I posted that on Twitter actually for the past couple of weeks. I always get like I also want to always say I think it's very tricky being a good investor, being a good CEO, and being on social media. Because to be honest, I think the CEO part is not as much, but being a good personal investor, actually, good investing is all about being contrarian. I think most people underestimate that. But the popular bet, right, is impossible to be extremely profitable because everyone is in it, right? So being the contrarian is it, generally speaking, is always the bet that's actually really profitable. Obviously, you can't just always say, you know what, something that's totally shit. Yeah, everyone thinks it's shit, so let me invest in this because maybe it's really shit. But many times it's really about um, distilling the actual facts and the actual reason out of a very emotional market. And let's be real, crypto is a very emotional market. And so when I look at that, I always am a person, and I think if I have one thing that I really learned from being a medical doctor is distilling the symptoms, then looking at the most logical solution. There's always a saying in medicine, if you hear hooves, it's probably not a zebra, it's just a horse. And the idea here is a lot of, especially medical students, they kind of see three symptoms and they always start with the most exotic disease because that was the last thing that they kind of learned. And so they think about this, where many times actually the most logical solution that's out there. And so the most simple solution is generally the kind of solution that kind of comes in. And so when I look at the entire market, and I posted that, I think we have seen two irrational hype cycles this year that had very little substance, didn't deliver any value to the underlying, but created a lot of emotion. And to me, it's very difficult to value cryptocurrencies on an absolute perspective because generally they're not cash flowing. So it's very difficult to kind of make any kind of calculation. But what's, in my opinion, relatively simple is to do any kind of relative valuation. So, you know, my formula for value is the utility of something times its rarity times the number of people that are part of that. And so in crypto, if I look at Bitcoin, right, as a very simple example, and I look at the entire utility over the last year, I haven't seen the utility of Bitcoin change. I haven't even seen Bitcoin's utility change much over the past, I don't know, I got involved since 2014. I haven't seen it change over the last 8 years. Now you can say, but what about SegWit? Sure, but SegWit and Lightning, I mean, yeah, I get it. There's some people using it, but if you look at it, the grand scheme of things, it's a few percent. So yeah, utility went up, but it's slightly up, let's say it this way. And then yeah, you can say that a month ago Taproot got activated. So what? Like, I still think like not a single person on this call or any on my followers, and I have what 80,000 followers on Twitter. I don't think a single person is now, oh wow, like the utility of Bitcoin just went up, right? I just don't see this. So we can say maybe it went up a little bit, but and now comes the really important part. I can look at the entire kind of how many people have been joining, how many active addresses are there, how many funded addresses are there, right? So I can look at how many downloads, how many new joiners. Obviously, I can see this on Cake as well. I can see how many people are growing. I can see this on the various social media channels, and I can compare those hard facts with what I see as emotions in the market. And especially when Q1, Elon Musk kind of came in with Tesla, I think that created a total run and hype for Bitcoin. And there could have been two trajectories there, right? There could have been a lot of companies that would have jumped on it, and a lot of other people. But let's be realistic. What other S&P 500 company that was like as a category of Tesla jumped on? I'm not aware of one, right? So sure, maybe in the future. And again, I'm really talking about this year. I'm not talking about the next 5 years. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin long term. I just want to explain why I'm sometimes a bit contrarian, right? So that is why when you followed me end of March, beginning of April, when I suddenly saw this absolute irrationality of bullishness in the market, I was like, hey, listen, guys, I'm a bit more careful. I would consider moving some of the funds into a bit more conservative kind of assets, simply because I saw this entire kind of hype cycle, and at the same time, I didn't fully understand how did the fundamentals change here, right? I didn't really understand that. And look at what happened. I mean, we know history. April, May, super bad crash, and then we saw the recovery slowly, and then September, I mean, was peak pessimism almost. I mean, we were at 40,000, and people were so bearish. They thought, hey, we're gonna go back down to 30,000, and then in October, suddenly this pump came, but the pump came from Bitcoin futures ETF. And we discussed this many times actually here on the Twitter space. If you remember, it was one of our very first Twitter spaces that we started doing on a regular basis. And I mentioned this on a Twitter space. I said, look, yeah, that's great, but a Bitcoin futures ETF actually is not it's a bet on the price. And I think a lot of people misunderstand that. They misunderstand that having a Bitcoin futures ETF in theory doesn't have much to do actually with Bitcoin itself. You're just betting on something, but it's completely independent of actual Bitcoin. It's basically if you're betting on horse racing, right? You're just betting on the horse race. That has nothing to do with the horse, right? You're just betting on it. So that doesn't just because you're betting on the horse race, well, it doesn't make it doesn't pay for anything for the horse. It's nothing, right? It doesn't give any substantial value to any of the horses. It's just you're betting on it, and that's it. So it has nothing to do. You're not being paid in horses. It doesn't make the horse more valuable. It's just you betting on the horse, and it's exactly what's happening with the Bitcoin futures. And so I just saw this rally up to 69,000, and that's where I started being a bit more bearish and say, I just think the market is really emotional from the change that I've seen on a day-by-day basis. But I could look at what's actually happening in the market, and I could see, well, the fundamentals didn't change. The utility didn't change. Obviously, Bitcoin's rarity didn't change. And I don't see more and more people joining. Actually, all the people that I see are people who have been in the market already, and they're getting all super bullish. And then when the hype, like the FOMO index was like what in the 80s or 90s, I was like, hey, there's such a high chance of the market retracing because we're so bullish, but fundamentally nothing has changed. And then now come the other parts, right? So many people were like, yeah, but inflation is coming in now, and then inflation is at, they're announcing it at 7%, and actually it's at 20%, and that's going to be so bullish for Bitcoin. And my statement on this was, it's completely irrelevant. The 20%, even if it's 20% per year, it's totally irrelevant. I mean, look at the volatility Bitcoin has. Bitcoin drops 20% in a day or over a weekend. So why do you care about the money supply expanding by 20%? Sure, Bitcoin has a high chance of expanding with that money supply. So what? So we're expanding by 20% per year. If that is why you're investing into Bitcoin, I congratulate you, because I promise you 99.9% would be super unhappy with a 20% return on Bitcoin on an annual basis, even though that's an absolutely insanely great return. So inflation actually very little to do with what the price is doing. And so then you had more like kind of more possible events that would actually have a negative price on Bitcoin. For example, obviously, any kind of fear around COVID right now is always a hot topic. Then you had Evergrand again, right, bubbling kind of up. I mean, you look at their share price, completely crashed again. So all these things kind of come together with this absurd positivity that around, to me, not much substance. And I posted this on Twitter, and whenever I do, I get totally attacked. And that's where I think the difficult part many times is between being like actually authentic and sharing your honest opinion on social media, and at the same time being a good investor and being a good CEO. And that's why many times on social media I post that being a good investor and CEO is many times completely at odds with being on social media, because people on social media want you to talk about on Bitcoin, right? I mean, who are the top followers on Bitcoin? It's those who constantly talk about how great the price is. Oh, we're going to go to 100,000. Oh, moon. Oh, bullish. Oh, crazy. Like this, Bitcoin is going to pump. This coin is going to pump. And these are the people that people follow on social media. But these are generally not the people who actually make money. Most of the time, these people actually have no money, and they are just making their money from their followers. And I don't do that. I'm a I invest my personal funds, and I'm the CEO of a company. And it's actually backfiring many times, because if I say something critical about a project, the first thing that is, oh, I'm going to totally boycott your project. I'm going to make sure no one joins your company, right? So you consider this and you sit there and you're like, I'm just trying to help people in understanding my thoughts. But yes, I get it. I'm helping some, but I always have some that totally take this and completely shoot against you. And that's why sometimes I don't share a lot of things on social media, because it just completely backfires on a lot of other things. And I have no upside actually in sharing them except for I'm helping some. So that is where I see a lot of the crash coming from. And again, I want to be a bit of a more pessimistic person. And I get the entire hype cycle right now, and I get that people expect. I mean, there's still a lot of optimism in the market, to be honest. And the price going up to 51, people are like, oh no, this was just a setback. We're pumping. Let me put a different perspective to that. Why is the price going up right now? All the assets are going a bit more to risk off, meaning people don't want to take so much risk. You look at the stocks, yeah, stocks rebounded a little bit, but it's normal after such a really bearish kind of market. Sure, the Omicron variant doesn't look as dangerous as it originally was kind of told by the media that it would, so that's kind of calming down a bit. So why is the market going up? So why is it going up? Do you see any? Of course, the existing community bullish as fuck. That's normal, right? You have to discount that part. So look at the underlying facts. And the underlying facts right now are there's a lot of Bitcoin inflow to exchanges. A lot of whales are depositing funds to exchanges. There's a CME gap up to 53,000, and these CME gaps generally tend to be like magnets for the price. So kind of keep a bit in mind, right? That if you ask me what's going to happen over the next week, right? And again, I'm not talking about the next months. I'm really talking short term here. I'm going to cover my midterm, long term philosophy here. But if you ask me over the next week, so let's talk about until next Tuesday, I would rather think the price next Tuesday is going to be under 50,000 than over 50,000. And we're at 51,000 something right now. Why do I think this? Very simple. Yes, Tether was printed over the weekend. Tether is like the central bank for Bitcoin. We don't know if there was actual dollars being put behind those Tether. I assume there is, but no one knows. So that is why the price recovered. We see whales coming in. We see the CME gap that opened and generally is closing. So to me right now, I don't see any fundamental strengths that would rectify the price going up, other than there being a bit of a kind of bounce. But at the same time, I would be extremely careful with this bullish hope and this bullish kind of sentiment right now, especially over the next week, where I would rather see that, hey, maybe we see another 5%, 10% drop from like this bounce. Don't get me wrong. there were a lot of people. I made a really short-term trade. I bought in at 44,000, super lucky timing. I wanted to buy in at 48, missed the 48, and it was so quick that I couldn't buy that fast. And then, so from 44 to now, I mean, that's like what, 15% plus, right? So there's a lot of traders who are super happy with 10, 15%. They use leverage for that, make massive gains. They're cashing in. They're like, hey, wow, that was a nice Christmas gift. So I just want to put a bit of a more cautious sentiment to the market right now. And again, I should be talking my own book here. I should be talking, hey, go into Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin now. And probably I'm like a super bad CEO for sharing this. But again, I share my own personal investment philosophies here, and I would be super unauthentic not doing that. Again, and now let me switch that over. If you really focus so much on the short term, you probably shouldn't be in crypto. And also, you as a Cake customer, you're very unlikely actually focus so much on the short term, because cash flow and all these ideas should actually be giving you a very long-term kind of time horizon, a long-term focus. And I actually disagree with the peak coming in Q1. I really think we're gonna see, like, screw all those 4-year cycles. First of all, I have never, but I think for the last 2 years, I've been talking about how these 4-year cycles are very unlikely to actually not having been total coincidences, completely like fooled by randomness. The very first one with Mount Gox, the other one with the ICO hype. Sure, it coincided with Bitcoin halving, but so what? I mean, I just don't see that, and I think there's not going to be these 4-year cycles anymore. I think we're going to see run-ups, we're going to see setbacks, we're going to see run-ups, we see setbacks. And so here's now the real bullish kind of scenario here. Look at the a daily chart, or look at the monthly chart, right? Do what Michael Saylor does. So he has this he actually does, I think he does a 200 weekly chart, right? So like super long kind of 4-year time horizon here, right? And so you look at that, and then remove out the Elon pump in Q1, remove out the Q3, Q4 pump from the Bitcoin ETF futures, remove those out, and just look at the base. Then you can see that actually the 50,000 right now is a really, really solid line. So probably the 50,000 at this very moment is actually a really good fair value. I would think the fair value is higher. So I would probably think that the price also until Christmas, New Year is probably going to go higher. I doubt it's going to hit the 100,000. I want to be realistic here. It would be 100% from here, and I just don't see this happening. But maybe I'm too bearish or too cautious. But like, I think if you just look at the chart there, it's a very, very, very bullish chart, to be honest. Just remove the Bitcoin futures ETF hype and the Elon Musk hype from Q1, and you're gonna end up with a very, very solid kind of chart. And so going from Bitcoin, right? That's, and also you can look, the crash down was totally driven by Bitcoin. You saw that. You saw that by Bitcoin like really kind of pulling the entire market down. But also look at this right now. You look at the recovery, actually alts, except for yesterday for a really, really brief time where alts really started to sell off. But you look at it right now, alts are really outperforming Bitcoin on the rally up. And so that's also a very interesting sign here in the entire market, right? It just shows that, generally speaking, there's not much new capital coming in, because normally new capital is attracted by Bitcoin a lot, and then it goes into other coins. But it's rather the market kind of reanalyzing and saying, hey, you know what? Let me rebalance maybe a bit. Let me look at some other opportunities. Wow, I always wanted to invest into this coin, and now drop by 30% or 40% over the weekend. Let me go into this, right? And so again, I'm not making any kind of, I don't want to throw any shade on one coin or push another one. I just want to look at total numbers and give you a bit of my thoughts here. Yeah, that's a bit of where we're standing in all this. Yeah, Fabio, what else? Can you comment on something? Can you share anything? Can you add anything?
Yeah, I have a very much more, let's say, crypto mainstream thinking about these things. So I'm always bullish, and
That's good. Also, I like that kind of bouncing like between you and I.
I'm massively overexposed, as a lots of people are. So I hold the large majority of my net worth in Bitcoin. I get my salary in Bitcoin, and so I also walk the walk, not just talk the talk. But I'm very bullish. Also, like the bottom. If you look at a daily chart, you can see this long wicks to the downside, and for me, it looks like a bottom pattern. We hold the line at the 50 moving average. So I think maybe sideways a little bit and then upwards. And for me, it's when it comes to Bitcoin, I don't really want to see Bitcoin change or adding any liquidity. For me, it's a finished product. Maybe that there is, of course, but for me, Bitcoin is hard money, and it should not be tempered with or changed. Like let all the altcoins, let all the experiments progress and see what works. And if something works, we can discuss implementing those things later into Bitcoin. For maybe we touched a little bit on price action, and what, in my personal opinion, is really, really interesting is two things that are relevant to maybe this Twitter Spaces. One is the price of Ethereum that actually was super bullish during this dip. Like it got bought up a lot faster than the Bitcoin dip. It also, when you compare the Bitcoin to Ethereum,
Fabio,
chart,
how does that make you feel?
I own some Ethereum, but as you know, I'm more of a Bitcoin maximalist. Not 100% one, but of course, I would love to have more Ethereum right now. So I have mixed feelings. Let's say like this. But clearly, you always say that if effects change, if the surroundings change, you maybe need to change your opinion as well. And I'm completely open to being wrong sometimes. And if you look at the Bitcoin Ethereum chart right now, Ethereum looks super bullish, and it looks like that it's likely to outperform Bitcoin over the coming time. It looks like, you never know. And also, what I wanted to mention is during the last dip, actually DeFi chain was outperforming everything. It was like 10% in the green while everything was 20% in the red. So there are just things that are in my mind, I guess nobody was foreseeing this. And so lots of our customers that hold DeFi chain, DFI, were actually not really affected at all by the dip, especially if you, like we have a few customers that have their portfolio maybe 50% in DeFi chain. So you had Bitcoin and Ethereum dropping 20% and DFI was up 20. So it was practically a zero game for them on this day of the big dip. And now, of course, everything starts to rise in price again. So for me, the last week was pretty interesting to see. But it's impossible to say. I think 2 weeks back, so we talked about, hey, where's the price going to be at the end of the year? Right now, my tendency or my thinking changes a lot. So I think we're not going to see the six figures this year. I'm pretty sure. And I also
do you think a new all-time high? Do you think we're going to, let's say, 70,000 plus on Bitcoin?
Maybe, but I would give it a 40% chance, like 60% that the new all-time high is next year, 40% chance that it is this year. But in the long run, like mid to long run, and you always say that on your personal YouTube channel and also within the company, one of the most important things when it comes to investing is your time horizon. And I see this actually a lot. So there's people right now, I got a personal message from a friend and he said, hey, I want to buy a house next month. Should I sell my Bitcoin or should I hold? And like in my mind, his money should never have been in Bitcoin. If you have something that you want to buy within the next year, you probably should not invest that money. You should hold that in fiat currency, in euros, in US dollars, or in your local currency. But it's if your time horizon is 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, I'm not worried one bit. The Bitcoin and will be a lot higher than it is right now. It's just a question of personal time horizon, I guess.
I mean, that's a really, really good point. So, I think that's key. If I like, and I posted it on Twitter as well, so I can share it here. I mean, my number crypto now in my portfolio is DeFi chain, and that's really because that thing has just performed so well the entire last year. I've been reducing my Bitcoin position. I've been very stable on my Ethereum position. I have no interest in selling any of my DeFi chain at the moment. I also I want to highlight why, right? Not because I have any unfair advantage or any kind of insight. The reason is, for me, super simple. If people flock into crypto, they will always flock into Bitcoin, they will flock into Ethereum, but more and more people will flock into DeFi chain because the project is becoming more and more popular and more people know about it. So I would assume the growth rate in people obviously is always easier in a smaller project than a larger one. That doesn't mean that DeFi chain is the safest one. Bitcoin is still the safest one. So if you just want to invest into one project and you just want to play it super safe, Bitcoin is definitely the safest crypto. But from there, the other factor here is not just people. The other one is utility. And you look at the utility change rate, right, that DeFi chain has. I mean, what utility change did Bitcoin have over the last couple of months? Like, I seriously believe zero. We can argue that maybe it's 1% up simply because of Taproot, but I also want to highlight, I mean, I think no one yet is really utilizing that. What utility change did Ethereum have for the last 6 months? Zero. DeFi, Ethereum, and that's why Ethereum has been performing so well, did have a change in rarity because a lot of weeks actually Ethereum has become actually deflationary because of the burn mechanism. And I think that's key, and that's why Ethereum has been rallying so much. But then if I really compare that, and that's why I'm so bullish on DeFi chain, you have this utility aspect that's just constantly going to go up simply because that blockchain is so young. It's just like Ethereum in the very early stages when they had one upgrade after another, and there were so many additional feature changes. I mean, that was humongous, right? You could argue that Bitcoin had the exact same thing in its first couple of years when upgrades were basically very frequent, and now the utility changes pretty much like once every 4 years. Now, on the other hand, that just shows how stable and how safe Bitcoin is, right? And so I just really want to be very clear on that here as well. And yeah, then maybe to address a question when people ask me, so how do you deal with all this? Like, how do you deal with the price changes and the liquidity mining, and how do you kind of still focus on your work? I'm someone who just plays this super safe. When like I don't go and I don't arbitrage, I don't spend time in left and right. I go into the safest stuff. If I look at the liquidity mining that I'm doing my liquidity mining right now between DUSD and DFI. I'm super over collateralized, so I'm taking very little risk. I don't need to pay attention to this. I'm not someone who opens my wallet on a daily basis. I open it maybe on a weekly basis, look at the rewards. Oh, great. Let me add some Bitcoin, let me add some ETH or something, put it into liquidity mining, and off I go. Right. So it's a really I don't know. I just see investing really as what it is. That means making the most money with the least amount of work possible. I just believe that investing, that's how good investors do it. I think good investors spend very little time actually with the investment part. I think as a good CEO, you focus on the things you can actually control. And I don't check the DeFi price. If you ask me what is the DeFi price right now, I literally have to check. I have no freaking clue. Let me open it. If I look at the Bitcoin price, I mean, I need to go to CoinMarketCap and kind of look at, it's like what, 51,000 something. Ethereum is at 4,400. And the DeFi price is around $5 plus minus, depends on which pool you look at. I normally always look at the DeFi BTC pool, which is now sitting at around $5. So yeah, but I really don't. I'm not a day trader, so I don't look at those things here. So look at the time horizon. I think that is really key. Have patience. That is all that Cake DeFi is about, right? It's about getting cash flow, having this time horizon. I would not invest into cryptocurrencies if your plan is to cash out in the next months. That's very, very dangerous and very tricky. I think crypto is really good as soon as it comes to years of time horizon. And I think that's absolutely essential in all that. We're coming to the full hour, Fabio. Any other things you
Yeah.
want to get give to the community?
There's one last thing, and I thought about what I wanted to say regarding this. And so, if anybody that is listening to this is considering, hey, I want to dabble with this. So these decentralized assets, this is like a very new thing and I don't completely understand it, but I want to get some exposure and I want to like participate and get some of the huge rewards. And they will only be available for a certain amount of time, because as soon as the liquidity pools get in balance and as soon as a lot of people come in, those rewards will get lower and lower. So if you are one of those people that maybe doesn't 100% know what you do, one very important tip: before making a 5-figure or 6-figure transaction, just do a small one. Just do with $10, just do with $100. I see so many people, they come in, they sign up, and then they do a 6-figure transaction as their first transaction, and then they are wondering why they maybe lost 10% because they were participating in an unbalanced pool. If you start out and you do it with $10 or with $100 and you see there is a difference in value or something, just try it out first before you bring in the big guns. This is just a personal recommendation. Things are a lot easier and a lot less stressful if you just give yourself the if you just try it first and give yourself the time to learn. Come into our Telegram groups and ask a question. If there is something that you don't understand, ask for a link, for a video, for a blog post. Ask a question, and our moderators or other community members are happy to help. This is just what I wanted to end with.
That is really cool. At the end, 2 things I would love to mention. First of all, if you're not a customer yet, you want to become a customer. Collect the sign-up bonus that we have. Also, watch the platform. We're updating it on a regular basis right now with new services. There's going to be a massive, awesome promotion also coming up. I'm not going to give anything away here on which product or which detail this is going to be on. I promise you, it's going to be absolutely like insanely awesome. We have never done such a promo, so you're going to totally love it. I can promise you one thing already. It's for existing and for new customers. So, but you'll have to be a customer. So get ready, sign up. I'm also not going to give away the date. It's going to be freaking awesome. You will not have a single bit of a complaint there. I can assure that to you, because it's actually coming straight out of our own pocket. It's a pure thank you for all our customers in being so awesome. So it's a big thank you as a kind of a jolly Christmas. Again, it's you need to sign up. You need to be verified. So do that, and then kind of pay attention to when this is gonna roll out. It's gonna be I think quite exciting. Other than that, next week is gonna be our last Twitter space of the year. So we're gonna do one next week, Tuesday. But then we're going to go into a Christmas break for 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, depends on the exact time. Because in January, it's going to be a Tuesday. I think it's the 4th, which is our, like, pretty much the launch week. And there's going to be probably a super busy schedule. So I'm not sure if we're going to do a Twitter space there. Otherwise, we're going to have a bit of a break there. So get ready for that as well. Obviously, Cake DeFi is going to be open 24/7, 365 days a year. Please understand, though, obviously, over the Christmas holidays, over New Year, there may be a little bit of a slower processing, slower answering. We're still going to make sure we stay within our timelines. But if you're normally used to withdrawals happening within a couple of hours, maybe give it a couple hours more. If you're used to getting a reply within a day, please maybe understand that it may take a day or two. Understand that there's public holidays, and look, for many cultures, Christmas is the most important holiday of the year. So I hope you also understand that you give our team a bit of a slack there. So just want to be super like upfront about that. But and again, we have, I think, still like 22 job openings. We've had a record quarter in hiring. So we've been growing the team like crazy. We're now close to 100 people that are, I think, over 80 people that are actually actively working for us, over 100 people now that are ready to start. We don't have actual starters in December. We don't do that. Maybe also interesting for those of you that have companies. We don't have people joining in December, and we don't have many hiring interviews in December for the simple reason because we really want to focus on getting the stuff finished, clean everything up, have a bit of a slower kind of time during Christmas so that people can really have time with their families. And then January is going to be full launch again. So yeah, but again, go to cakedefi.com/jobs if you are open in looking at the 22 or something job openings that we have. There's not a single department that we're not looking people for. Yeah, we're planning on growing the company from 100 to close to 200 people over the next year. Absolutely bonkers to see the growth, the speed, and everything. With that, thanks so much, everyone. Thanks, Fabio, for tuning in, for putting in your valuable insights here. It's so nice to bounce ideas. Not all the ideas, as you know, are exactly the same. Many times there are different opinions, different ideas, and that's absolutely important and key. But I think the general spirit is 100% aligned, especially on the long term, and many times that's actually what really matters. So I want to say thank you for being part of the community, being part of our platform. Stay tuned for Jolly Jolly Christmas here. It's gonna be exciting. We're gonna share more also on that next week. So hope you're tuning in. And hey, have a really nice week. Stay safe, stay healthy, make good investment decisions, and then see you next time.